Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to learn how to make that beautiful dress that you've just seen at the beginning of the video. It's textured, densely textured by the way. It's made using the lemon peel stitch, and we shall be doing some shaping here and there in order to achieve a perfect fitting for our dress. So this is a made to measure design, and for the supplies I am using a 4mm crochet hook, some stitch markers, measuring tape, a pair of scissors, and the yarn that I am using for this project is Seagull. It's a 4-ply acrylic yarn, and this is a fingering weight yarn, so I'm going to be doubling the strand in order to get a good thickness. So if you can get a DK weight size 3 yarn, that would be a perfect substitute for this project. And it took me about 3 days to make the whole outfit. So grab your materials and let's jump right into the video. So if you would like the written pattern, it's already available on all my online shops. And pick your colors, guys. You can make this in any color of your choice. For me, I chose to go with pink. And if you would like to try out the lemon peel stitch for different projects, I'll be leaving a whole playlist of lemon peel stitch dedicated projects that you can try out with me, that I've made in my previous videos. So if you're looking for shorts, if you're looking for a skirt, we already have that on the channel. So I'll be leaving behind a playlist in the description box so that you can try it out. You can try those projects out if you wish. Alright, so you're going to get your hook, your 4mm crochet hook, and your yarn, and just have a stitch marker around. And I am going to start with a chain of 7. So you're going to start off with a slip knot and make your required chain. So I have my 7 chains here. Now you're going to go into the second chain from the hook and place a single crochet, a double crochet into the next chain, a single crochet into the next chain, and keep alternating between a double crochet and a single crochet until the end of the row. And make sure you end your row with a double crochet stitch into the very last chain. So this will give me a total of 6 stitches. Now you're going to get your stitch marker and you're going to mark the fourth, 1, 2, 3, 4, the 4th stitch. And this is the point where we're going to create the middle increase, as you'll see later on. So we're going on to row 2. For row 2, you're going to start with a chain of 1, turn your work into the first double crochet of the previous row. You're going to go in there with a single crochet. And then you're going to alternate between double crochet and single crochet until you reach the stitch where you placed a stitch marker. So the next one is a single crochet, so it will receive a double crochet. And then this is the stitch with the stitch marker. You're going to remove it, and then into that stitch you're going to place 1 single crochet, 1 double crochet, and 1 more single crochet, all in the same stitch. So we've placed 3 stitches into 1 stitch, and then you're going to mark the middle stitch of the 3 stitches that you just placed. That will be the increase point of the next row. And then you're going to continue to alternate between double crochet and single crochet until the end of the row. And you should make sure that you end your row 2 with a double crochet. And then you're going to go onto row 3. For row 3, you're going to start off with a chain of 1 and turn your work. The previous stitch is a single crochet here. So you're going to single crochet into the double crochet below, and then alternate between double crochet and single crochet until you get to the stitch with the stitch marker. So I've placed a double crochet into the last single crochet before the double crochet with the stitch marker. You're going to remove your stitch marker, and into that stitch that had the stitch marker, you're going to place one single crochet, one double crochet, and one more single crochet, all in the same stitch. And then you're going to mark the middle stitch. And then you're going to continue to alternate between double crochet and single crochet until the end of the row, ending your row with a double crochet. So this is row 3. Row 4, you're going to chain 1, turn your work, single crochet into the very first stitch, and then keep alternating between double crochet and single crochet until you get to the stitch with a stitch marker where you will place an increase. So remove your stitch marker, create an increase in the stitch that had the stitch marker by placing one single crochet, one double crochet, and one more single crochet, all in the same stitch, and then replace with a stitch marker into the middle stitch of the 3 stitches that you just placed, and then keep alternating between double crochet and single crochet until the end of the row. So this marks the end of row 4, and you should notice that we are doing the same exact thing for each and every row. We are going to repeat this row until this measurement here is 1/4 of your bust circumference when stretched. Not fully stretched, just give it some slight stretch. So I'm going to repeat row 3. I think that's the row that we started repeating. So repeat row 3 again and again until this measurement from this corner to this corner is 1/4 of your bust circumference when stretched. For me, the bust circumference that I am considering for my piece is 36 inches. So 36 divided by 4 is 9. So I'm going to make sure that I keep working that row, my repeat row, until this can stretch to 9 inches, and I'll be back when I'm done with that. It's a 1 row repeat for now until we get to that level. So chain 1, single crochet into the first double crochet, keep alternating between double crochet and single crochet until you get to the stitch with a stitch marker, create your increase, and continue to alternate between double crochet and single crochet all the way across until the end of the row. So one thing that you should notice, that each double crochet from the previous row gets a single crochet, and vice versa. Each single crochet gets a double crochet. The only difference is in the middle, and that middle stitch should always be a double crochet, and it should always receive one single crochet, one double crochet, and one more single crochet from the new row. So keep working that row, and every row starts with a single crochet and ends with a double crochet. That's what you should note at the moment. All right, I'm at that point when I have this distance here, measuring 1/4 of the bust circumference. So my intended measurement was 9 inches, and you can see without stretching I have 8 inches, but this stretches to 9 inches. So make sure you get that measurement right. And now we're going to go on to our decrease rows. We're going to start decreasing on the sides of our piece, and we're going to stop creating an increase at this point in the middle of the piece. So to do that, I'm going to mark this. This was my last row of increasing in the middle, and I've stopped at row 17. So I've marked that very last row of increasing in the middle. Now it's time for us to start decreasing on the edges, this side and this side, and also stop increasing in the middle of the piece. So to do that, you're going to make a chain of 1 and turn your work. Now you're going to skip over the very first stitch, and the second stitch is a single crochet. So we're going to double crochet into the second stitch and continue to alternate between single crochet and double crochet all the way across until we have a total of 2 stitches left on our row. And make sure you're always placing a double crochet in a single crochet from the row below, and vice versa. Every single crochet gets a double crochet, and every double crochet gets a single crochet. Alright, so when it comes to the middle section of the piece where we were placing increases before, you're going to just go past that area. Just continue with the pattern. This is a double crochet. You're going to only place 1 single crochet this time, no increase, and then double crochet into the next single crochet. So you can see we haven't created any increase at this point. And then continue to alternate between the 2 stitches until you have a total of 2 stitches left on your row. Alright, so we're coming to the end and I have a total of 2 stitches left. I'm going to just yarn over, insert my hook into the second last, pull up a loop, insert my hook into the very last stitch, pull up a loop. I'll have 4 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through 3 loops, and then yarn over, pull through the last 2 loops. So that's the decrease at the end of the row. So this is what you have. Our main aim here is to create a decrease here, to create the shaping towards the waistline, but also to stop increasing in the middle of our piece. So let's do that one more time. This is row 18. So row 19 is basically going to be the same as the previous row. So chain 1 and turn your work. And this time the second stitch is a double crochet. So you're going to skip over the first stitch. The second stitch is a double, so you're going to go in there with 1 single and then continue to alternate between double crochet and single crochet all the way across until you have 2 stitches left on your row. So this time round, when it comes to the middle section, you'll be seeing the stitches clearly because we didn't create any increases for the previous row. So we are just going to go across, as you can see here, and then continue until you have 2 stitches left on your row. Alright, so we have 2 stitches left on our row, and you're going to yarn over and repeat the same exact process that we did for the previous row. So you yarn over, insert your hook into the second last stitch, pull up a loop, insert your hook into the last stitch and pull up a loop. You have 4 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 3 loops, and yarn over, pull through the last 2 loops. So this is how we create the decreases on the side. You're going to keep alternating between row. Okay, so I think I should consider this as row 1 and 2 of the decrease rows, because at this point we're going to be at different levels depending on the size that you made for, or depending on your measurements. So at this point, this is row 2 of decreasing on both sides of the piece, but not increasing in the middle. So we are going to repeat row 1 and 2 of the decrease rows. Just keep alternating between row 1 and 2 until this piece reduces to a specific number of stitches that I'll be mentioning. For me, I'm going to keep reducing until I have a total of 15 stitches at the base of my piece. And then I'll also recommend the number of stitches that you should consider having before we go onto the plain rows in the middle section of the piece. So remember, row 1, you just made a chain of 1 and turned your work. Skip the first stitch, and this is a single crochet. So you're going to double crochet into the second stitch, and then keep alternating between single crochet and double crochet until you have 2 stitches left on your row, and you will create the decrease just as we've done for the previous 2 rows at the end of the row. All right, so you can see the slant that the decreases are creating. The decreases at the beginning and at the end of the row. This is what your work is going to look like. So I'm still decreasing until I have a total of 15 stitches along this row, but this is the progress of my piece. All right guys, so I'm working my very last row, and on the last row I want to make sure that I have an odd number of stitches, which is 15. So for the last stitch, instead of creating a decrease, I'm going to just go in here with 1 double crochet in the second last stitch, and then 1 single crochet in the final one. So this will give me a total of 15 stitches across. So you may consider to have maybe less or more stitches at the base of your piece, depending on the width that you want for this area here. Now I'm going to go ahead and make 9 more rows. So the aim of this is to get to around my belly button level. So you're going to make a chain of 1 and turn your work. So since we are maintaining the number of stitches, I'm going to get a stitch marker and mark this very last row of decrease. Make sure you have an odd number of stitches. So we are now going to maintain this number of stitches until we get to the belly button. So you're going to make a chain of 1 and turn your work. So this is a single crochet. So in the very first stitch, I will place a double crochet, and then single crochet into the next double, double crochet into the next single, and keep alternating between those 2 stitches until the end of the row. This is row 1 of the plain rows without any increases or decreases. We're just maintaining the number of stitches. So I'm going to place my very last stitch in the last stitch of the previous row, and I've ended with a double crochet. So I've started with a double and ended with a double, but this can change depending on the stitches that you have for your previous row. So you're going to make a chain of 1 and turn your work. So since this is a double at the end, I'll start with a single, and then a double into the next single, single into the double, and keep alternating between the 2 stitches until the end of the row. So for me, I'm going to just keep repeating rows 1 and 2, the one that starts and ends with a single crochet, and then the one that starts and ends with a double crochet, again and again until I get to my belly button level. So this one starts and ends with a single crochet, and you can see the straight look is already reflecting. As you can see, we are no longer decreasing, but we are maintaining the number of stitches. So let me go ahead and keep doing that until I get to the belly button level, and then actually I'm going to do that until I have about 1 inch before the belly button, because the owner of this piece doesn't want to leave out the belly button. So I'll do some increases at that point. So we're just maintaining the number of stitches until that level, maybe like 1 inch before the belly button. But if you want your belly button out, then you're going to maintain until the belly button level, and then we shall go on to the increase rows. Alright, so I've done a total of 9 rows of plain 15 stitches across my row, and at this point I'm like 2 inches, or actually 1 inch away from the belly button. So try on your piece, and once you get to that point, you're now going to start increasing. So I'm going to place a stitch marker on the last row of the plain rows. Let me place it on this side where all the other stitch markers are. You can see we have a stitch marker here where we stopped increasing, and then we have a stitch marker where we stopped decreasing, and then we have a stitch marker where we've stopped the plain rows of the stitch. And this is what your work should look like. That's what it should be looking like. This is the upper part, and then this is towards the lower part. So I'm going to start increasing, and to do that I'm going to make a chain of 1. Now I'm going to increase at the beginning and at the end of row 1 of the increases of this section. So into the first stitch I'm going to make a chain, a single crochet, double crochet, and another single crochet. Another thing that I forgot to mention is you should end your plain rows on a row that starts and ends with a double crochet. So this is row 1 of increasing again, and this time round you've placed a single, a double, and a single into the very first stitch, and then keep alternating between double crochet and single crochet all the way across until you have only 1 stitch left on your row. Alright, so I have 1 stitch left, and I've placed a double crochet in the second last. So in the last one, you're going to go in there with 1 single crochet and 1 double crochet into that last stitch. So that means for the very first row of the increase row of this section, you start with 3 stitches in the first stitch and end with 2 stitches in the last stitch. And the row starts with a single crochet and ends with a double crochet. So let's go on to row 2. You're going to make a chain of 1 and turn your work, and into the very first stitch you're going to go in there with 1 single crochet, 1 double crochet, and another single crochet, all in the same stitch, and then keep alternating between double crochet and single crochet until the end of the row. This time round, on the second row, we are not going to create an increase at the end of the row. We're just going to go until the end of the row. placing 1 double crochet, 1 single crochet, and you should end your row with a double crochet into the very last stitch. Okay, so this is a single crochet into the second last, and make sure you don't miss the last stitch. It should get a double crochet. And this is the row that we're going to keep repeating. I'm going to repeat this row, which is row 2 of this section, 2 more times, so that I have a total of 4 increased rows, and then I'll be back to show you what to do next. So you chain 1, turn your work. In the first stitch, place 1 single, 1 double, and 1 single, all in the same stitch, and then keep alternating between double crochet and single crochet until the end of the row, making sure that you end your row with a double crochet into the very last stitch. And then I'll do this one more time for the next row, and then I'll be back to show you what to do next. All right, so we are back. My increased rows are done, and you can see the shape is like of a fish at the moment. So once you get done with this part, you're going to go ahead and create the same exact piece. So I have my second piece here, identical to the first one, and then we are going to go ahead and join them at this point. For now, I'm going to get a stitch marker and join this area as well. This point where we stopped increasing. So that corner there, I'm going to join it for now, but this is just a temporary stitch marker. So you can see the cutout in the middle of the piece. Now I'm going to get my yarn on one of the pieces. Make sure that both the pieces are facing the same side. You can see the tail of this is here and the tail of this is here. So I'm going to go into the very first single crochet of this panel and place a slip stitch just like that, and then make a chain of 1 and cut your yarn. We shall weave this in later on, but for now we have joined the 2 pieces together. So you can cut your yarn at this point, and we are going to continue to work with this, the yarn on this side. So this is what you should have. So you're going to get a measuring tape. And you're going to take a measurement of this area here from one panel to the other, well stretched, not so stretched, but slightly stretched. You can see without stretching, I'm at 11.5. Now I'm going to stretch it out a little bit, and now I'm at 14. And you're going to take your hip circumference and subtract the 14 inches. So the hip circumference that I am considering for my piece is 42. So 42 minus the 14 that we have right now will give us 28. So we're going to make a chain of 28 inches to go around the body. So we are now creating the bottom part of our dress. So we've subtracted this measurement from our total hip circumference, and your chain should be a multiple of 2. So you're going to attach to pick up from where you left off this panel, and make your chain of 28, or whatever difference that you've gotten between your hip circumference and what you have at the base of your piece at this point. So just keep chaining. I'll be back to show you what I'll get. Alright guys, I've made a chain of 100, and as you can see it stretches to my 28 inches that I got as a difference between the two measurements. So you're going to make sure that your work is not twisted, and you're going to attach this chain to this corner, the single crochet here, and place a slip stitch. And now we've joined our piece into a round, as you can see here. Now we're going to keep working around this piece like this. So for round 1, you're going to make a chain of 1 and turn your work. We're going to first work on the chain that we just placed at the back of the piece. After your chain of 1, you're going to go into the very first chain with a single crochet, and then double crochet into the next chain, and keep alternating between single crochet and double crochet all the way across until you get back to the body of the dress. Alright, so we've made it all the way across the chain. As you can see, we've come to the end of the chain, and you should end with a double crochet into the very last chain, and then you're going to place a single crochet in the double crochet from the body that we already had, the front body of the dress. So a single crochet into this very first double crochet, and keep alternating between double crochet and single crochet. Make sure you place an opposite stitch. So if you have a single crochet, you place a double, and that's the way you can track whether you're on the right track or not. You should always place the opposite stitch into the stitch from the previous row. If you have a single crochet, it should get a double crochet, and vice versa. So let me go all the way to the middle section, and I'll show you what to do at this point. Alright, so we've come to the mid section. I've placed a double crochet in this single crochet, and I'll place a single crochet into the next double crochet. So the last stitch is a single. I will place a double crochet there, and I have a tail here from the joining of the two panels. I'm going to work around it. So the next stitch is a double, so I'll place a single. So basically we've crossed over onto the next panel, and then a double into the next single, and a single, a double into the next single, and you can see we've just gone across, placing the opposite stitch. So keep working across here and weaving in this tail. So that we don't have to deal with it later on. So you can see the back side. So the good thing about this design, both the front and the back side are basically going to have the same exact stitch. This is because we keep turning our work to work in the opposite direction of the previous round or row. So I think I can cut off this tail now and continue to alternate between my stitches until the end of the round, because this is round 1 of the bottom section of the dress. So I'm placing a single crochet into the next double crochet, and then a double crochet into the last single crochet of the front body of the piece. So you're going to make sure that your piece is not twisted. Just make sure that the piece is not twisted. So what I have here, I'm going to make sure that all my stitches are facing up along this part, and then I will place a slip stitch into the very first single crochet of the round. That's how to end these rounds. And then now we're going on to round 2. For round 2, and this is the round that we are going to keep repeating, you're going to make a chain of 1 and turn your work so that you're working in the opposite direction of the previous round. So once you turn your work, you go into the double crochet with a single crochet and keep alternating between double crochet and single crochet. We're not creating any increases or decreases. We're just going to go all the way around, and then later on we shall do some shaping at the back. So keep alternating between single and double all the way around, and you're going to wind up your round the same exact way that we've done for round 1. So this is the round that we are going to keep repeating, round 2. Keep working all the way around, and when you come to the end, you should end your round with a double crochet. We always start our round with a single crochet into the first double crochet after turning, and we end our round with a double crochet into the last single crochet, which is here, that one where this chain comes from. Make sure you don't miss it, otherwise you'll be decreasing. So you end with a double crochet into the last single crochet of the previous round, and we're going to keep working until we get the length of the skirt that we want for our dress. All right, now to work on the waist area of the skirt, the uppermost part of the skirt, remember the extension of 28 chains, the 28 inches that we extended in order to create the skirt bit. I am going to use an elastic strand that's approximately 13 inches less than the 28 without stretching. So I have about 15 inches of the elastic strand, which is 13 inches less than the 28 inches that I extended to make the skirt around the back. So this elastic strand is going to attach from this point until this point, the extension that we made towards the end of our dress. So I'm going to get this corner and attach my elastic strand using a knot. You're going to tie a tight knot. Make sure your elastic strand is secured. I'm going to tie a double knot at this point, and then I'm going to do the same on this side in this corner, and I tie a double knot. Okay, 1, and 2. So this is the elastic strand, as you can see here. This is the elastic strand that's going to go into this stretch at the back of the skirt. So you're going to grab your yarn and attach it at this corner where we've attached the elastic strand. And we're going to work around the elastic strand while going around this extension at the back of the skirt or the back of the dress. So we're cleaning up the edge. You're just going to continue to single crochet all the way across. So find the best way. Actually, I'm going to place 2 single crochets in between the spaces of the lemon peel stitch. You see that space there? I'm going to keep placing 2 single crochets. While working around the elastic strand. So when you feel like you're running out of the elastic strand, you're going to pull on it so that it can gather the back of the skirt. Since we measured a shorter length than the extension that we actually have. So you can see that, but here we are running out. So as you keep working, you're going to keep pulling on the elastic strand. Don't over pull on it, but make sure it is gathering the skirt portion of the dress. And you're going to continue to clean up the top edge by placing 2 single crochets in between the lemon peel stitch. You skip 2 stitches and into the next space you place 2 single crochets. That's how you're going to end up gathering the back part of the skirt portion of the dress. So you can see this. Pull on it a little bit and continue. I hope you can see the gather here. So continue until the second spot where you tied the elastic strand. Alright, so we're coming to the end and you can see there's a very short distance and then a longer distance here. So for the last ones, I'm going to just go into the stitches without pulling on the elastic strand, so that it can also gather the last stitches that I'm going to place. Alright, so this is my last stitch and this is how the back part of your piece is going to look like. Looks funny, but it will fit perfectly well around your body. So after this, you're going to make a chain of 1 and cut your yarn. Pull through and you can go ahead and hide the elastic strand, this tail of the elastic strand, as well as the loose end at the end of your project. So this is what we have. Alright, now we're going to pick a color for our edging. For me, I'm going to choose the hot pink color, and I'm going to remove all the stitch markers that are on the edges of both the panels. You're going to remove all the stitch markers. Okay, so this is what we have. Now we are going to clean up the edge of our piece using whichever color that you prefer to use, and I'm also using a 4mm. This is different, but it's the same hook size. So we're going to make a slip knot, and we're going to attach at the top. You remember the top edge of our piece. I'm going to go into this space and attach my yarn, and I'm going to single crochet into the next space. So I want it to just create a pointed look. Then from here, I'm going to go along the side of my piece, and in every double crochet, I'm going to place 2 single crochets, and in every single crochet, I place 1 single crochet. So in every double crochet, I place 2 singles, and in every single crochet, I place 1 single. And just like that, we're going to go all the way down onto the second panel. Okay, just like this. So you can see the contrast between the 2 colors. So keep doing this. So just find the most suitable place to put your single crochet stitches, because at some point it's going to be a little bit confusing to see whether it's a single or a double. Just make sure you evenly distribute the single crochet stitches so that the edge is very neat. Alright, so when you come to the base, you can see this. You're going to just walk across to the second side and continue to do the same exact thing that you've been doing on this side. So you're going to go all the way up, and I'll meet you back at this point. Alright, so we've come to the top here, and I'm going to just find a way of placing single crochet stitches along the top, but make sure you don't place too many. Just like this, and then we go onto the opposite side and continue to single crochet along that edge, making sure that we evenly distribute the single crochet stitches. Okay. So when you make it all the way down, you're going to go into the stitches at the back of the dress into the single crochet stitches, and you're going to go in every other stitch. Remember, this is a gathered sort of design, so you're going to just skip one stitch and go into the next with one single crochet. Just keep skipping one stitch and single crochet into the next stitch for the back side of this piece. Make sure your single crochet stitches are not that tight. So go all the way across the back of the dress at the top layer of the skirt. All right, so when you make it here, you're now going to go along the last side of the top part of the dress. As you can see here, you're now going to go all the way up. All right, so we've come back to the beginning of the edging, and you're going to just slip stitch into the top of the first single crochet of the round, and this is what you're going to have. And just like that, we are done with the edging, and we're going to create straps at the top of our piece. So you're going to slip stitch until you're in the middle of the panel here, and you're going to make a chain. All right, so to create the straps, you're going to make a chain of 100. All right, so I ended up making a total of 70 chains instead of 100. 100 was going to be too long. Now I'm going to make one more chain and slip stitch into the second chain from the hook, and continue to slip stitch once in each and every stitch. Slip stitch once in each and every chain back to the body of the dress. So this is going to make our strap a little bit thicker and more sturdy. All right, so we've come back to the body of the dress, and I am going to slip stitch into the same space where the chain came from, and here you're going to make a chain of 1 and cut your yarn. All right, so this is what we have for our top strap. You're going to attach your yarn at the top of the second panel and repeat the same exact process. So since I have a total of 70 chains for this one, I'm going to attach my yarn here and make the same exact number of chains as I did for my first strap. So I'm going to go back on each and every chain with a slip stitch. So just like we did for the first strap, go all the way back to the body of the dress, and I'll meet you back when my second strap is finished. All right, so the second strap is finished. I'm going to slip stitch and make a chain of 1, cut and pull through. So you can go ahead and make a knot at the back of the dress or on the back side of the dress and secure your loose ends so that you can cut them off. So just like that, we are done. And now we're going to go to these corners on the outside of our piece, those two corners. We're going to attach our yarn and make a chain of 100 and then go back on it with a slip stitch in order to achieve something that looks like this. So attach your yarn here, make a chain of 100, come back on it with a slip stitch into each chain, and then do the same exact thing on this side. Now we're going to make the middle flower, and it's made of 3 flowers that are joined together to make that center design. Alright, so to make the small flower, you're going to start off with a magic ring, just like this. You grab the working yarn and make a chain of 1. And then you're going to make a chain of 2 and place 2 more double crochets into the magic ring. So 1 and 2. And then you're going to make a chain of 2 and slip stitch into the magic ring. That will count as our very first petal. And then you're going to make a chain of 2 double crochets into the magic ring, 1 and 2, and then chain 2, slip stitch into the magic ring. That's the second petal finished. Now you're going to repeat that 3 more times to make a total of 5 petals. So chain 2 double crochets into the magic ring, chain 2, slip stitch into the magic ring. So we repeat that 2 more times. So this is the last petal, and I'm going to make a chain of 2 and slip stitch into the magic ring. So once you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 petals, you're going to get the tail of the magic ring and you're going to pull it so that you can close up the space in the middle of the petals. So you can see that. At this point you can make a chain of 1 and cut your yarn, pull through, and then you're going to get the tail of the magic ring and pull on it so that it can close up the space in between the petals. And then you can go ahead and make a knot at the back of the flower between the tail that you left behind after making the petals and the tail of the magic ring. So you can make a double knot there, and this is how our small flower looks like. Alright, so to make the second size of flower, you're going to start off with a magic ring. Make a chain of 1, and this doesn't count as anything. So you're going to make another chain. This counts as a chain 1, and go into the magic ring with a total of 8 single crochets. This is the second, the third, the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. So now we have 8 single crochets. You're going to close off the magic ring and go on top of the very first single crochet that you placed and place a slip stitch. So this marks the end of round 1. For round 2, you're going to make a chain of 1 and single crochet into the very first stitch. So you can go ahead and place a stitch marker into the first stitch just to keep track of it. So you're going to go into each of the next 7 stitches with 2 single crochets, 2 in each of the next 7 stitches. All right, so counting from this one with a stitch marker, you should end up with a total of 15 single crochets. So we count this one, the one with a stitch marker: 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 and 15. So once you have your 15 single crochets, you're going to remove the stitch marker and insert your hook into that stitch that had the stitch marker and pull through. So that's a slip stitch. So we're done with round 2, and at this point we are now going to start working our petals. I'm going to use the same exact color. So for the final round, which is going to create the petals, you're going to make a chain of 2, and then into the same stitch you're going to place 1 single crochet. So the chain 2 here counts as a stitch, so that means we have 2 single crochets in the first stitch, 2 double crochets in the first stitch, and then into the next stitch you're going to place 2 double crochets, 1 and 2, and then into the next stitch you're going to place 1 double crochet, and then make a chain of 2 and slip stitch into the same stitch with the previous double crochet. So this marks the end of our very first petal. So you're going to slip stitch into the next stitch, chain 2, double crochet once in the same stitch, and then 2 double crochets into the next stitch, and then into the next stitch, which is the 3rd stitch of the petal, you're going to place 1 double crochet, chain 2, and into the same stitch you're going to place a slip stitch. So that marks the end of the 2nd petal. Slip stitch into the next stitch, chain 2, into the same stitch with the slip stitch you're going to place a double crochet. So we are working our 3rd petal. Double crochet 2 times into the next stitch, and then into the 3rd stitch of the petal you're going to place 1 double crochet, chain 2, and into the same stitch you're going to place a slip stitch. So that marks the end of the 3rd petal. So you're going to repeat this until you have a total of 5 petals. So at the end of the 4th petal, you should notice that you have only 3 stitches left. We have 1 2 3 4, and then we have 3 stitches left on our round. So you're going to slip stitch into the next stitch, chain 2, into the same stitch you're going to place a double crochet 2 times into the next stitch, and then into the last stitch you're going to place 1 double crochet, chain 2, and slip stitch into the same stitch with the previous double crochet, and then you're going to make a chain of 1 and cut your yarn, leaving behind the tail to attach. So this is how our 2nd flower is going to look like. Remember, our very tiny flower looks like this. So this is the 2nd size, and now we're going to go onto the big flower and see how to work it. All right, so for the big flower you're going to start off with a magic ring, and then make a chain of 1. This doesn't count as anything. Now you're going to make a chain of 1, and into the magic ring you're going to place a total of 8 single crochets. So far I have 3 4 5 6 7 and 8. So you can go ahead and count backwards. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 and 8, and into that 8th stitch you're going to place a stitch marker, because it may get a little bit confusing to locate the very first stitch. So you count from here: 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 and 8, and into the 8th you're going to place a stitch marker. That's the very first single crochet of round 1. Now you're going to pull on the tail of the magic ring, and then you're going to remove your stitch marker and place a slip stitch into that stitch that had the stitch marker. So that marks the end of round 1. For round 2, you're going to make a chain of 1, and into that same stitch, working in the same direction as the previous round, you're going to place a single crochet, and then you're going to mark it with a stitch marker. This is the very first single crochet of round 2. And then in each of the next 7 stitches, you're going to go in there with 2 single crochets. So 1, 2, into the next stitch, 1, 2, and continue to do that all the way around. And counting this stitch as the very first stitch of the round, you should have a total of 15 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. So once you have 15 single crochets, you're going to remove your stitch marker, and into the stitch that had the stitch marker, you're going to place a slip stitch. And that marks the end of round 2. Now we're going to go onto the petals. At this point you can switch colors, but I'm going to use the same exact color as the midsection. So you're going to make a chain of 6, and into the same stitch where the chain 6 is coming from, see that hole? You're going to yarn over 4 times, and you have 5 loops on your hook. Insert your hook into the same stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop. You'll have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through 2, 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 and yarn over, pull through the last 2 loops. So that will give us this very long stitch. And into the same stitch, we're going to repeat the same exact process. So yarn over 4 times and go into the same space, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2, pull through 2, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through the last 2. So this counts as 3 stitches into the very first stitch. And then you're going to go into the next stitch and place a total of 3 long stitches, these ones, the previous 2 that we've just placed. So yarn over 4 times and go into the next stitch and place your long stitch the same exact way that we've done the other ones. That's the first one. Yarn over 4 times, this is the second one, into the same stitch. And then this is the third one. 1, 2, 3. So far we have a total of 6 stitches, and our petal should be made of 9 stitches. So that means into the next stitch, you're going to repeat the same exact thing that you've done for your previous stitch. You're going to place a total of 3 long stitches, but first place the first 2, and then for the last one, I'll show you how to do it. So yarn over 4 times into the next stitch, place your long stitch, and then yarn over 4 times into the same stitch, you place the long stitch just like that. And then instead of placing the long stitch, you're now going to make a chain of 6, because we want to wind up our very first petal. So into the same space where the previous 2 stitches are coming from, you're going to place a slip stitch, and that marks the end of our very first petal. And then you're going to slip stitch into the next stitch and make a chain of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then into the same stitch, you're going to place a total of 2 more long stitches to make a total of 3 stitches. So far we have a total of 3 stitches because this chain 6 counts as one of the long stitches. So we're done with the first stitch of the second petal. We've placed 3 stitches in it. Then you're going to go ahead and place a total of 4 long stitches into the second stitch of the second petal. So this is the third stitch placed into the same stitch. So far we have a total of 6 stitches for the second petal, and we need a total of 9. So for the last stitch, which is the third stitch of the second petal, you're going to place 2 long stitches and then make a chain of 6. 1 2 3 4 5 6, and slip stitch into the same stitch that has the previous 2 long stitches. So that marks the end of the second petal, and this is what your work will look like. So we're going to repeat this process that we've done for the second petal and the first petal, so that we have a total of 5 petals around these 15 stitches of round 2 of the petal of the flower, sorry. So repeat the same process, and I'll meet you back when I have 5 petals around. So you first slip stitch into the next stitch, don't forget that, and then start creating your petals. Alright, so we are done with our 5th petal, and this is what your flower will look like. And now I'm going to make my last chain of 6 and slip stitch into the same stitch as the previous 2 stitches to finish off my last petal. And then I'm going to make a chain of 1, cut my yarn, pull through. So you can see we have a total of 5 petals that are identical. Now you can go to the back of your work and get this tail from the last round of the petal and weave it in towards the center of the flower, so that you can have 2 tails at the point of the magic ring. That way it's going to be very easy for us to attach onto the garment where we're going to attach this flower. Alright, now that we know how to make the small flower, the medium size, and then the bigger flower. Alright, now that we are done with the straps and we now know how to make the 3 flowers, you're going to choose any colors of your choice to make your flowers. The big flower, the medium sized flower, and the very tiny flower. And then you're going to locate the exact middle of the bra cups You're going to use a very short strand and you're going to tie it together just like that, and then you're going to introduce your flowers. Now we're going to start with a big one, and we're going to get a darning needle and turn our work to the back, and make sure these tails, the two tails, are closer to the foundation or the magic ring, so that they're somewhere around here. Then you're going to introduce your second flower and do the same. Make sure this tail on the edge of your piece is closer to the foundation chain of the flower or the magic ring. Just pass it through so that it's towards the middle section. So from here you're going to just place this middle flower on top and find a way of pulling the strands of the second flower through the midsection of the large flower, just like that. So you can see what we have right now. So make sure the flower is centered in the middle of the previous flower. So this is what we have. And now you're going to get your smaller flower, the smallest flower, and place it on top of the second flower, just like that. And we are going to do the same exact thing. We're going to go into the midsection on this side, and you're going to pull one of the strands, the loose ends of the smallest flower. Just like that. And then you're going to also pull the second one. Find the best way to do it without tampering with the shape of the flowers. So this is what we have at the moment. The two flowers should be in the center of the big flower. So this is what we have. And now we're going to go ahead and distribute these loose ends. Just make sure you have 3 on this side and 3 on this side, and you can go ahead and tie a knot. It can be a double knot or a triple knot, depending on what you prefer. This is what you're going to end up with. And then you're going to place it here in the midsection. And you're going to pull through these loose ends on either side of the two panels. So one on this side, find the best way to pull through those loose ends, and then one on the opposite side. You can see what I'm doing. So when you flip your work onto the back side like this, you're going to have these loose ends. You can go ahead and tie them together. Make sure you don't distort the shape of the flower at the front of your work. So this is the back side of my work, and after making a triple knot, I can cut off the loose ends and also cut off these loose ends. And just like that, we have a flower in the midsection of our piece, and then we have a cutout in the center, and then we have these straps running to the back of the dress. And that's it for this video, guys. Let's see the final look of our beautiful textured cutout flower dress. It has so many aspects, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.